to review and consider. All I want to say is there's an awful lot in these minutes. There's good stuff. So I think we'll get some updates on some of it. I'll entertain a motion if you had a chance to review the minutes.
There is a point of correction. The information given in terms of the part-time, full-time, I thought I saw it. Did we put that one in there? I thought I found it and I don't see it. There was information given about part-time, full-time faculty, but it didn't make the minutes. But what I'd like to put in, we can add it later, but the point of clarification was that somebody said that the part-time, full-time ratio is 50% to 50%. That's not the case. It's been pretty consistent since at least 2017 that 75% of the courses offered are taught by full-time faculty, which is a very good number versus about 25%, 24% average by part-time. So I'd like that to be recorded in the minutes, and it was stated, but I think it's important to know because I think some of the council members were a little alarmed at that. It has not been like that for at least 3 years. So that's a very good ratio. So, thank you. And thanks, Tara, for getting me the date.
The motion as clarified.
Yeah.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And it's approved. Thank you. Student government update.
Hi, nice to see you all again. It's been a couple months, so I'm proud to be back. So I wanted to start off with thanking you for your support for the housing and security resolution. So I don't know if you know, but we do have that model in place now. So students that have housing and security, they do have a pathway to get housing for free. So thank you for your donation. I really appreciate it. On breaks, yes, not during school, well, yes, during academic year, but not during school time. So winter break, spring break, fall break, all those students could apply to have housing for free if they fall into those categories of need. So Matt Barney and Mike Waxman are in charge of that. So thank you, Dr. Anchu, for supporting that. So something also as well is that, do you all know about SUNY SA, SUNY Student Assembly? So it's like the SGAs of SGAs. The president sits in the board of trustees actually for SUNY. So I'm a part of their executive committee and I'm presenting the resolution that I presented to you on November 13th to them to make sure that they're distributed to all SGA presidents, and all SUNY schools could try to provide a funding model or a model that supports students in these breaks and times of need for students to stay on break for free. So I'll let you know if it passes. There's a lot of support for the resolution, and it doesn't mean that every SUNY school will implement it. It's just that they have a model to go for. So we're that model. So it's pretty cool that SUNY Cobleskill started that.
Oh.
Yes.
Good.
So thank you. Yeah.
Please make sure they know that the college council
Of course, yeah.
supports them.
That's where I started. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to talk about a little couple of initiatives that we've been starting that I've been keeping you guys in the loop. So we're advocating for recycling and dual garbage bins on the walkways of campus. We're hitting some roadblocks, but we are in conversation with facilities to get them implemented. They're very pricey. I didn't know how much a garbage bin and a recycling bin would cost, but we're looking for 10 to cut down the litter and make sure our campus continues to stay sustainable and beautiful. So that is in the works, but we are definitely hitting some roadblocks with conversations. We're still advocating for course evaluations to be mandatory for all faculty, full-time and part-time. That's moving along. It's very slow, obviously, because it's a union thing, but we're still advocating for it.
Let me explain that, because it's not the union thing. It's a UUP, and I just want to make sure it's clear. Stipulation that it's that the student they don't want student evaluations per se, but the importance is that the faculty, and I want to speak, and Barb, please step in, do not think that the student evaluations per se are a good tool to measure faculty performance. However, when you look at the documents in SUNY and across the board, it's mixed. Sometimes it says use them, sometimes it says no, sometimes it says for renewal, sometimes it says for reappointment. Some folks think it's important that students have a right to evaluate. Others are saying it's got to be a better tool. So it's very, very complicated. And what we've been trying to say to Cheyenne and the students is it is a union issue. So how do we help them work that through with faculty governance, because it's not a faculty governance issue per se, but it's a lot more complicated, and I just want that on the record. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Just that our academic personnel policies committee, which is where the review of our extensions of our jobs come from, at least the recommendations from our peers. That committee is looking at putting together a list of best practices for administering these, including not being in the room while they're being administered, making sure that they're completely anonymous for students, making sure that the information from those evaluations is not looked at until after the course is concluded. All the logical stuff that we know as seasoned professionals, but if you're new to the profession or just new or part-time, you might not be aware of the ethos surrounding student evaluations and how to ensure to students that they feel comfortable providing their most candid feedback. So we're working on that this semester. I expect we'll have something by May.
That's great to hear. I didn't know about that. That's good. So, what I stated was that it was a union issue. It's something that students really overwhelmingly support, and faculty. A lot of faculty have brought support for it. It's just a double feedback loop, just trying to have students have that formal feedback anonymously to give them the empowerment to make sure that they're getting the right academic support that they pay for and that they need. So it's just something to have a tool in their belt for faculty to use for improvement. You know, nothing to get anyone fired, just something that could be looked at as a way for improvement. So that's what students want. So I just want to let you guys know that SGA elections are coming up. So that's going to be in March. So you're going to have a new cabinet member right here. We are excited for some of the candidates that are coming up the chain. I'll keep you guys updated, but that's going to be in March. We have the campaign for a whole month, and I'll make sure to endorse one of the candidates that I see fit. And there's a few actually. This is like one of the most competitive elections we've ever had. Yeah, that's really cool. So I think there's like 4 for president right now, and it trickles down all the way down. And there will be a debate, and you guys are welcome. I'll make sure to invite you to that. And that's just more to see what values and what initiatives they would like to in place, and to see where they stand in some advocacy efforts. So I'll definitely invite you guys to that. We had a good support last year for that. And just want to let you guys know about graduation, since you guys are all there. Friday night before, the 9th, so the 8th. There are just awards, dinner, and footing. That's the way we're going to do it. I'll give you guys more information as soon as we meet as a committee with our advisor, Christina Pratt, who's the director of student leadership. So just want to let you know, awards, dinner, and then footing.
Actually,
yeah.
Just to let you know, that's changing because commencement is a college event. One thing we've realized, and we're talking about it, the provost and I now with others, is that it's time to recognize the associate students, and we're looking either at pins or there are associate hoods we found. That if it's a hooding, it's hard to say to half of the graduating class, go away, go to dinner while we do this other piece. So in honor of the associate students, we're looking into doing hooding pinning or hooding. That all graduates will be invited to this ceremony once we figure it out. So that is something new that we just discussed this week. So we'll tell you more about that, but that's something I think is important.
I think that's awesome. And our committee hasn't met yet, so I'm sure we'll find that out. So I think that's really awesome.
The committee
For
on
graduation celebration, the dinner part. So yeah, that's what SJ funds.
Yeah.
And that's one part
Good.
that student government takes part in. That's all I have. Do you guys have any questions about any of our initiatives, or if you do, please email me, and I would like to partner with anyone. And and see what you guys have feedback for. Thank you. That's it.
Just a question, with the change of student leadership, is there an orientation towards the college council, what to expect?
Oh, of course. I didn't get that, but
Yeah.
well, for you. I mean,
Would you
previous
think that's a good
president.
idea or a bad idea?
I think that's a great idea. I'm just saying in terms of other presidents, I didn't get like any support. Like I didn't know what I was doing. So yes, I had to lean on Dr. Ann a lot. There's going to be a transition folder that we create for a binder per se. And since the elections are earlier this semester, we did that on purpose so they could come to our meetings. So if we do have an April college council, which I hope we do, they will be coming, the new president, to get their hand in and to see what role they play. And I'll be doing that across the board. I would be inviting the new president to everything I do. I'm trying to make sure that battalion gets passed on successfully and make sure they know what the job is.
Or maybe as part of that, if you would like a more formal sit-down with council members or member or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that offer.
Good. Thank you. Great report.
Thank you.
President's update. Not under this. Dr.
Yeah,
Turner.
thank you. I know we've wanted to, at meetings, have the council meet some faculty to see the good work we're doing, but because major changes have occurred since we last met, we thought it'd be more important for you to hear that. So I want to hand out this handout. Also to let you know, back to commencement, we are now able to publicly state who the commencement honorary degree recipient is, and it'll be Yono Pernomo. So he has accepted, and we are working out the details and how to figure out how to honor him. We were laughing, thinking taking him anywhere to a restaurant makes no sense.
There's a neat place in Albany.
Yeah, right. So we'll be working with
We can't afford it.
the culinary program, which may mean he will not be honored on commencement weekend per se, because we believe or think that the culinary students and faculty need to be a part of that. So we'll. Are there enough to go around? I made 20. There's got to be enough. So Eric, you have 2.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, and there's another one here.
Yeah, we
I'll need one. Did you guys, Susan, did you get one?
Yes.
Barb, did you get one?
need.
Got it? Okay, just two-sided. So we've been doing, as you would imagine, due diligence and watching the environment and moving a very aggressive agenda forward, and I have to commend the faculty and Barb's good work as the presiding officer for these wonderful last few years, because this work may be the work that the cabinet has to do. This is the cabinet marching orders, but many of these initiatives are underway, and the faculty understanding and buy-in where they see themselves in this is very, very good. So I want to thank the faculty already for that. The good news, it's interesting that all these, like I said, we started looking at this in November to say, where are we? What has been done? Where are we going? So everything you see on this chart right now is in operation. That's the good news. So we're looking at new programs in terms of online. There will be a online boot camp from June 1st to June 5th, supported by the Provost's office, working again with faculty governance. And we're looking at an interesting model that Barb shared with us the other day, is perhaps in the workshop you build the course that you will be teaching. So more to come on that. And thanks for that, Barb, what Empire State is doing. Seems like it may fit us rather well.
It's a good synergy.
Yeah. So this will also include micro-credentials and moving forward on those. Esports industry we're working a little bit more slowly on that one, but the esports lounge and club will be launched soon,
For the fall.
the fall.
Mary, might you want to explain what esports is to
Why?
this group? I don't know if they sit at home and game a lot.
Right. It's the gaming world, and as you know, many colleges are getting into it. I think one of the best ones right now that you may have heard of is Canton. SUNY Canton has had it. I don't know if you ever remember, it was about 4 years ago, Franklin Marshall making an announcement that we're going to have scholarships for anybody who broke through level 20 of whatever that game was. What was the game? It's becoming a big deal. There are a lot of students, as you imagine, or young people who are gaming. And the benefit of that is pretty powerful. So thanks to Marie Curran-Headley and the academic side, and actually ITS, we'll have our own gaming lounge that will then be followed by some kind of program, academic program. We don't know exactly how that will take shape. Cybersecurity program is getting extra boost with the hiring of our retired Rear Admiral Sean, is it Philip? Filipowski, right. Supply chain management's already going through curriculum committee, so all of those are, and supply chain in particular, both of these are your 21st, 22nd century important pieces of industry certificates and programming. Supply chain's becoming bigger and bigger, as you would imagine. We are looking into working with Herkimer Community College on prison programs. We're excited about that. Instead of reinventing the wheel, Herkimer is already working with us. We have 4-year programs on their campus. They are very knee-deep into doing good work in the prison programs, and they want to take our 4-year programs and bring them along. The issue with this is that the tuition does not cover the cost. So mainly if you're doing this, it's out of the goodness of your heart, so to speak. I've been talking to the president of Herkimer. However, there is a bill out there called Second Chance Pell, and I don't, has it passed? Is it not yet? And it's going to be allowing prisoners to also have access to Pell funding. We don't know what we're going to do yet. If there's a model that we can offer the program, which doesn't cut into our revenue so much, we're looking into it, but we've slowed that down a little bit, but that's ongoing. We want to start an entrepreneurship and leadership program entity that may be working with the business department. More to come on that, but we think it's time to pull all of our pieces together on entrepreneurship and leadership across the campus and get that set up. Where it says executive action steps, these are where we turned our attention, particularly this semester, under the leadership of Gail Wentworth and what's happening in the SUNY piece. And Barb, do we have a rep on the SUNY side for the gen ed? I know we wanted to put names in.
We did put names in.
We did.
We did not, they're actually culling down the group at
They
this
are.
point.
Okay.
So no, our best advocate is Gwen Kay.
Okay. Oh, well, and we got a good
Fine
one.
advocate is
We
that.
got a good one, right?
Yeah.
We're looking to see, for example, can gen ed become stackable modules? Can a gen ed sequence have skill building like critical thinking? And can we do things that get across the importance of what a gen ed program will give students? And can it be across the board in a way that it's stackable? So I have to give kudos to, again, the faculty with the leadership of the Academic Affairs Office with Sue to look at gen ed differently and what it may bring us. We had an interesting, which was related to the next learning communities, phenomenon that, and we don't know why, and this is not saying, we're not putting blame on anywhere, but 40% of our first year students received either a D, F, W, or I, right? Which is a D or an F or a withdrawal or an incomplete.
So this was in general education courses, and this was at the associate's level. Just that's what we
Please.
explored for the
Right.
Title III grant.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want to know what's happening in that area. We're moving to an intensive coaching model to assist the faculty in their good work of advising. We think it's more important that the faculty have more meaningful conversations and interactions with their students. Our students, again, good, better, and different, it's a new world, how to help them navigate higher ed. We cannot assume that the incoming students know even what our jargon means, right? Or how to build a schedule, or who to go for help. So we're asking other professionals in the college to help with all those pieces. So when the students get to the faculty, they're talking about academic work. Kudos again to the department chairs under, again, the leadership of Sue and the deans. They have taken over the scheduling and talking to each other. So Fish and Wildlife is talking to the sciences, saying, here's what we need, this is what we're thinking. And what this has done, it's going to slow down giving students at Accepted Student Day a set, locked down schedule. This is new for us on many levels, and what we're saying is the faculty want to know more about the students, and the faculty want to make sure how many are showing up in Fish and Wildlife, that in May, the science department knows what kind of courses have to go in rather than August. So we're saying to the students, because people are saying, what's the biggest draw for Students Accepted Student Day? And it's their schedule, but we're going to do it to say, here are the courses that you will be building in your schedule. You'll lock it down when you come back for orientation. So orientation is important in that piece. But who are you? Can you tell me a little bit more about, your interests? And that's going to help admissions. So where are the athletes? What kinds of clubs you're going to be interested in? We're going to start looking at what we call their academic mindset. We think it's a risk, if you will, but the risk is getting the students here as well as making sure they can progress through their academic program and not have to wait to take a course that we didn't know about until August, kind of thing. Sue, am I explaining that well enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
We've asked student development to help figure out what Accepted Student Day would look like so that we can have the department chairs continue their good work on master scheduling. I have to tell you, this is a very big deal. This is a very big deal. And the other piece that's new is the students have their own scheduler now. They've had it for a while, and now we're adding the faculty administrative side called Course Dog.
Yeah.
And that's going to help the faculty figure this out as well, right?
So it's a tool for scheduling. Right now,
Right.
it's really done manually. Literally, it's an Excel spreadsheet with a red N line through and a change. And you can only imagine as that goes through 3 layers of review, it's not a perfect system. So this will give us the tools that we need.
We are looking at faculty lines and workloads to say, can we have faculty do something more creative? Like if 3 faculty want to teach one course, go for it. How do we help the faculty be able to have the time to figure all this out and to be able to tell us what they need? So all of that is on the table. Folks say, well, isn't this expensive? And my response back is, it's an expensive enterprise. It's more important to make sure faculty have the tools they need to do the job they have to do. So, when you talk to me about expensive, in my mind, if there's a misalignment with what we have to do, then that's expensive. The provost, along with the deans and actually faculty governance, are going to be looking at our matriculation policies as well as our residency policies and the micro-credentials. So this is getting us ready to go differently into that night. And again, I applaud the faculty because this is saying, if you look at the constellation of things we're saying there's a group of students who mainly are adults who can benefit from the good work of SUNY Cobleskill, which means we may have to change how many courses we allow in before we say you're matriculated. Residency requirement is saying how many courses will we allow from elsewhere to count for the Cobleskill degree. All right, because usually, and this is what I grew up in as a faculty member, you want our degree, we got to make sure our degree has meaning. We'll take only so many courses, but you have to take this many so we know you're good. The faculty understand there's other ways of looking at that, and we're looking at the residency requirement as well. We have to do this work if we're going to move ourselves into addressing the needs of the new learners that are coming our way. Departments are doing very good work with, again, Sue and the deans, and they're doing their work analysis, and then Bonnie and Wendy and anybody else who needs to hear from the faculty will go into the departments and say, what do you need to do this? From buildings, so like Fish and Wildlife, is it time for their new boathouse? What does K9 need? What does science need? What kind of labs do you need? Every department, after they tell us where they want to go next, will then be followed with a resource plan. Now, some departments were also saying for the budget, I know this is a lot, so I apologize, but a lot has happened since we saw you. If we can only grow the enrollment so much because of the 17-year-old population decreasing, and we're saying that micro-credentials matter and this matters, we're going to turn to the departments and say, here's the budget bottom line. What is the mix of full-time 17-year-olds with micro-credential adults, certificate adults, and that's how the budget's being built. So Fish and Wildlife, for example, do not want to put a bunch of bachelor's degree students into the field because we're flooding it, but they want to do micro-credentials for adults. That counts. But we're building a model that SUNY doesn't allow us to count, nor IPEDS. So everybody has to understand where we're going. And we'll keep explaining this to you every time we meet. So Wendy is heading up a group because we've done some interesting interactions with the community, and we're using, it's called Slido. It's an anonymous question and answer with faculty and staff at forums that they can tell us anonymously what they're thinking. So one question we put up in January is, what is a good mix of our enrollment for the institution? So we had 3,000, 2,500, 2,000, 1,700. The majority of the folks at the meeting want 3,000. So the next question is, that's not 3,000 17-year-olds, because that ain't happening. So now and the community agreed. So Wendy's group is tasked with, what is the mix? How many of those 3,000 are going to be 17-year-old full-time students? How many are going to be micro-credentials? How many are going to be college and the high school? So that model is being built. We've also said to the community, if you want a community of 1,700, that means that we have an administrative staffing model that's way too big for 1,700 students, and a complex that's way too big. So we're going to the community and saying, what do you think? And then Wendy's group will build the model and give us their best thinking. I have more to say, but I just want to make sure everybody is, any questions thus far? Yeah.
I was intrigued with your comments about intensive coaching and that this will be done for the students. And from personal experience, I have found that the parents need to be coached about putting the helicopter in the hangar and telling their students, this is what we know you must do. You must go to such and such an office. You're becoming an adult now and must assume this responsibility, and the parents will not be calling up and saying, oh, by the way, my little Johnny needs da-da-da.
Well, it's not helicopter anymore, it's snowplow.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I mean, they're mowing, or lawnmower, because they are mowing us down.
If there's some way
There is,
to
actually, we are talking about that.
orient the parents to this, provide some sort of
We're doing that,
visual.
yeah, we're
Good.
doing that, we're actually starting with the parents of the students with disabilities, because they woefully misunderstand.
Yes.
How many phone calls has the provost gotten saying, you promised my student this, and this, and then Wendy Richards goes, oh, good God, we're making an assumption that the parents know what the students need to do, and they don't.
Yeah.
To your point.
Can I just add that, we actually started doing that orientation last year and having separate parent sessions. 2 years, sorry, having separate parent sessions, so that, for exactly that reason, so parents understand what the process is, So, you know, if a student has a concern, here's what they should do. So that, hoping that the parents can help redirect, but we'll continue that.
It's
work.
hard for the
Yeah.
parents to detach, I know.
Yeah,
And yet, there needs to be clear cut, if your
Yeah.
son or daughter needs
Yeah,
extra time for an exam,
right.
you don't call, the parent doesn't call to take care of
well, I
the
think the
student.
best one was the phone call that your office got. Would you share
I
that
had
wonderful story?
a parent called, a father called and said that so his son was below the required GPA for his first semester here. And he was put on probation and received a letter to say that he would be part of a special program that we have that supports students who are on probation. And the father said, I intercepted his mail and opened it, and I read this, and I said, no, he's not gonna come to that. That's gonna ruin his mood, and he's not gonna be participating in that program. And so I met with the student, and the student said to me, well, this seems like a good idea. And the student's in the program, but I had to wait till he came back to campus. But, you know, the father actually owned up to all that. I intercepted his mail, is what he said.
So,
Yes.
we're
And
very
it's
well
gonna ruin
aware.
his mood. Verbatim, that's what he
Linda, if I
said.
can just add a piece to that. We love parents who are engaged as faculty members, as educators, because there's plenty of education that needs to be done. And really what I hope parents will do, and if anybody ever watches this video, maybe they'll take this advice, is to really ask their child what their child needs. Like, what would you like from me? What kind of support would you like from me? Often what they're doing is they're the linebacker in front of what they think is the wide receiver who's got the ball and is running for a touchdown. They don't need a linebacker. They're the linebacker these days, right? So what they really need is someone who can, you know, help from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that we can't do for them that really the parents should step up and do if they're able.
Thank you.
Yes.
The other piece, because there's so much more I want to share, but the other thing that's on the back of your chart. So all this is happening, and we'll keep you posted and where we are. I'll say two more things on that in a minute, but we have adopted. This is from business. It's called the Blue Ocean Strategy, and I'm always looking for ways for the community to tell us where we are, what they're worried about. So we're doing these forums now, like I said, and another one's coming up on Thursday, where we're going to be asking questions again. And folks are coming up with these terrific ideas that are way off the charts, which is called Blue Ocean. So mainly what this what most people do is that it's in the red ocean, and we're all fighting for the same students, for the same, and it's getting bloody in there, where you're fishing and you're all kind of that's why it's called red ocean. They're saying there are a lot of examples in business where if you stay in the red ocean, you're going to become obsolete. They talk about, for example, toothpaste. And before you used to have your own brand that you always are loyal to, but because it's a red ocean strategy now, you don't care what toothpaste you use because you're looking at the bottom line, how much. So the loyalty piece is missing. It's very interesting. So we're adopting this blue ocean strategy for us. Where do we go that no one else has thought about? You know, what can we do that is different, that we're the only ones fishing in that ocean? And some of the ideas have been stellar. So what we're doing, any idea that comes, a cabinet member has been assigned to the idea and is going to talk to the faculty member and or staff person who has brought it up. And believe it or not, there are a couple that we're implementing already. So just to let you know that I've never seen a community take on to something. You walk around campus now and people are saying, hey, I got a blue ocean idea. Because they're also, we're following up too, so it's not falling on deaf ears. So we're every strategy will be addressed. So that's just to let you know how that's working.
So this is great. I think that might impact on, Wendy, your assignment to come up with I'll call it an enrollment mix optimization, because we probably want some blue ocean students in the mix.
Well, that is in the mix, that's right. To your point, their model can't be just 17-year-olds.
Yeah. But, you know, a little bit more on that. I think you really need to know where we want to be, So I would imagine, you know, you look at optimization, is it financial, these will pay more? Is it, these students will stay? Is it, we want more older students, because the mix affects the culture, I would imagine. Do we want innovators? Do we want traditionalists? That's gonna be a heck of a model.
Yes, it is, but we've got to go there.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, you know, if we put our head in the sand, that's not going to work. There's an institution here in the SUNY system that claims to have 2,900 students. 1,700 of them are on campus. Only 1,700 are on a very, it's a tech sector college on campus with a very complex physical structure. That is not sustainable. But they, you know, when you look at the enrollment, it's saying 2,900. So not only the mix to what you're saying, Eric, how do we use this fantastic complex? So more to come on that as well. But yes, that's why the model is going to look differently. So iPads may show one number, but the budget's going to show a whole different number. And we've got to go there. That's blue ocean. That we're saying we don't care on one level what iPads is telling us because they've never. By the way, do you know what I'm talking about when I say iPads?
No.
It's the integrated post-secondary education data system, right? That's the place that everybody goes crazy because it gives you the first time, full-time number. So the minute the first year class is here, as long as they stay full-time and progress through, that's the number. How many of our students go part-time? Then they're off the rolls. If a student transfers, we don't get credit, nor does the school they go to get credit.
Even internally transfer.
Internal transfer. SUNY's allowing us to, but not iPads. So when you see a graduation rate of 56%, that's not telling the story. We could have 700 students in and 700 students graduate, but that doesn't count. So when our students, the 2-year students, if they don't finish but are being picked up by a 4-year school already, they don't count for them or us. Okay, and that's the iPads numbers that grants use. We have to put up on our website to say, how's that graduation rate? How's that retention rate? And when I first came here, you heard the funny story where I said to SUNY, and I said to Tara, what's this graduation rate? Well, it's a mix of 2-year, 4-year. SUNY doesn't understand us. So I went to SUNY and I said, we have several graduation rates. We have several retention rates. I don't see, remember this, Tara? Yeah. I don't see the box where we can put that in there. We're saying, well, we don't have a box for you. You're just going to have to fudge it. And I said, excuse me? Mm-hmm. So Tara and I put a bunch of notes, footnotes in that to say, excuse us. This doesn't represent who we are. So that's iPads. So what we're saying, that number is going to shrink, but we're hopefully going to have a robust budget that's blue ocean looking. And we're going there. The challenges are spectacular. And I welcome such challenges because we have an institution who knows what to do with them. So to that point, I'd like Caleb and Bonnie to share with you where we are, because the other thing we've done, we have readjusted the admissions standards. And we want to...
May I just make one point?
Yeah.
I have class at 10.
Oh, you want me to...
And that's not typical, but I'm subbing for somebody else who's sick. So I'm sorry to say that I have to leave it about 10 of.
Well,
and it's still good, but...
Eric, I'm fine. We can stop. So Barb could at least give her report and then we can continue?
Sure. I don't want to take anyone's thunder, though.
No.
I'm sorry.
Well, are you going to say anything about this? Admission standards?
No.
I'm teasing you.
I'm like, look at my list. I'm sorry, folks, to interrupt about that, but,
well, Barb, if
we
you
try
want
to support ourselves, we don't have substitutes.
Faculty governance update.
Hey, thank you, Eric. Thank you. One thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, so I'll steal Marion's thunder, is that the faculty endorsed in its full completion the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee that now has a wider pan-campus mission and a wider pan-campus membership. So that is now finalized. I believe Marion had signed it, so.
I gotta stop you.
Okay.
I've never seen such stellar leadership on this initiative than Professor Bravitz and Professor Chuck Moran, who got us over the finish line and understood this. And I have to say, even with the good work of the committee and the CDO, Scott Ferguson, who did yeoman's work on that, Barb, you brought it over for us on the finish line, and your intervention on that was stellar. And the faculty voted to undo a faculty governance committee. You have to understand this. So, Barb, I had to say that.
Right. Undo the academic faculty governance committee and make it a wider committee that includes faculty, of course, in all of its forms.
Of course.
But then also includes students. It also includes student life. It also includes CAS. Includes all of the pieces of our campus where we look for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's not a hard sell to say you'd like your diversity, equity, and inclusion committee to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. It's really not hard to say. It just took about a year to do. Year and a half. You're right. But because it's a bylaw change, that's a big turn of the ship. Any turn of the ship should really take a while and have considerable discussion. We can always talk about things in academia, but we need it to be substantive and have a direction. And this was one of the achievements of my second term as presiding officer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I also represented the campus, as did Chuck Moran, at the University Faculty Senate, which met in January at SUNY Albany. Our sector, the tech sector, had two questions of the chancellor. We just made it like an 8-part question, number 2. But the sharing of concerns with the chancellor is our way to get directly to the chancellor and then bring issues that we think are solvable to her attention, and then hopefully it will rise to the top. The first one was we advocated again for resolution of the TAP gap. This is the idea that a student who has New York State TAP funding, it is supposed to cover all of tuition. However, it does not. And there is it $950 now?
I think it's more than that.
It's going up.
7,000 minus 5,500, so.
Yeah, so
1,500.
it was $950, it
Yeah.
continues to grow. As tuition goes up, the TAP limit doesn't. And this is a real travesty to both the institutions who support students with need and the program itself. I do think that the legislature might move on this year, and our union, so not governance, putting on my union hat, our union is trying to get us to advocate as citizens of the United States, but also of New York, to put pressure on our legislators to consider the TAP gap and the implications that it has. The other one that was big for our sector was to bring to the attention of the chancellor that we're still not really included in any substantive matter in Open SUNY, which is the SUNY Online / Open SUNY kind of big piece, and that there hasn't been a lot of movement at system about what it will mean if you join the fray of SUNY Online. There was talk about revenue sharing and all of that hasn't really panned out, so we asked about that. And then most significant from where I'd like to get, we asked that about test optional to allow campuses to option out of the SAT as mandatory for bachelor students. We were told about a year ago that we were not going to be allowed to be test optional as a campus. And the chancellor's answer to our group in a public forum was it's a campus decision, not a SUNY system decision. And I've already talked to the leadership, and we're going to follow up on that with systems and find out if what the chancellor said holds true when rubber meets the road. That would greatly improve Caleb's ability to recruit students to bachelor's programs who are otherwise qualified. It does not lower our admission standards. All it does is change our admission standards as far as what we look for. There's a lot of evidence that says that the SAT is not a great measure of ability. Okay. one of the other sectors brought up college council membership. And the governor's office lack of movement on reappointments and new appointments to college councils. It has seemed as if the governor's office has only dealt with those college councils who have an ongoing presidential search. And in order to meet a quorum, they fill out those seats because of the presidential searches. We're hoping not to have a presidential search anytime soon, but we would still like to make sure that college council membership is a priority, and that we follow the letter of the Board of Trustees guidelines in the appointment and reappointment of college council members. So I want you to know that your faculty at SUNY understand the plight that goes around this table, how people are in, like Olive said, the 11th year of a 7-year sentence, whatever she said. That we understand that, and it's not the way it's supposed to work.
So that explains why I got a call last week from the governor's appointments office. I'm sure there
Well,
was
we
a
need a
connection.
chair. We need a chair,
Well, it
Eric.
wasn't, they had no clue about that, it was just
Oh.
reappointment.
Oh, no kidding. Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I'll let my friends at the university centers know that they're at work.
But she had no idea of time frame or process going forward, she was just
Jesus.
checking off some boxes.
Well, if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
I think Marion will talk, or Sue will talk a little bit more about endowed professorship. One of our campus committees was asked by the executive leadership to come up with what we thought as faculty an endowed professorship should look like on this campus, given certain parameters of what SUNY is looking for. That recommendation went in December, and I believe there'll be a meeting soon between the executive leadership and the committees that came up with those recommendations, so we can bring it across the finish line. I think the online readiness task force meeting was mentioned. Maybe we talked about the OTEC first, but online, SUNY is finally coming to campus to give us a shakedown to see if we're ready to, it is really a shakedown, not money-wise, more like what comes out of our pockets. As we try, as we implement fully online or more than 50% online courses, programs rather, and this is a big step forward in our ability to have a fully online program. That online readiness task force meeting is in March, correct?
Yeah, March 6th.
So probably at our April meeting, we'll have an update on that. I am serving as on both the retention task force and the Middle States reaccreditation committee on campus in my role as presiding officer. Both are doing good work to look at the effectiveness of our programs, where our gaps are in either our retention strategies or in our governance structure. And then, as mentioned before, Sue and I and several other leaders on campus are working on changing our matriculation policies. We're looking at our residency requirements specifically for a bachelor's degree. And then we're looking at implementing the micro-credential policy that the faculty passed back in 2017. And the last two things I have on here, there's been substantial energy savings through a lot of initiatives on this building. If you look out in the hallway, I think you'll notice that the lights have a different hue as before. Those lights use a third of the energy of the lights that were previously there. And then we're also looking at printing costs. We've tried to cut back on our printing as faculty, and somehow you still need paper in order to read, even if you're a millennial. So we'll have more information about printing costs probably at the May meeting. But the tech committee is working on that. And then on a personal note, we have about a dozen Chinese students that are here internationally in the program that I teach in. The Wuhan coronavirus is impacting them and their families greatly, but they are free to stay here so far. I'm trying to find a strategy that we can keep them here in the United States over the summer, so that if they go back to China, chances are they won't be able to come back.
Let me add to that, actually, Susan Jagerdorf, who's our international program person, is working with SUNY, right, Sue, on all of that.
Yep.
Thank you, Barb. Also then, yeah, a couple things we're going to cover. Sue, do you want to add anything to the Middle States piece since Barb just brought it up?
Yeah, no, I think it's really important, and I thank Linda and Eric for being part of the committee. I think it's moving forward really well. Our goal is to have the middle states review, have the team here in the fall of 2021 for the site visit. So far, we're on track for that. In April, we're looking to have our middle states liaison, Lily Fogarty, here to campus. It's a required visit in preparation for that. So I think everything's going pretty well.
And also, since Barb also mentioned energy, Bonnie, do you want to talk a little bit more about not just this building, but the reality of the savings of energy is just.
Sure, our energy manager, Don Schaefer, and our heating plant staff, Chris DeLallo and Joe Batchelder, and our capital folks have just done an incredible job in reducing both energy conservation and costs on campus. And to illustrate that, and I can share this with you if you like, give me while I pull it up.
While you're looking for that, let me just give you an update too. Speaking of energy savings, our gasifier, if you are aware, we formed a company, 4 entities called Caribou.
Caribou Biofuels.
And would you tell them the good news?
Well, first of all, we signed a license agreement with Caribou, which was pretty exciting because now they can commercialize the technology and the college begins to reap the benefits of that. The first project that the company applied for was with CAL FIRE to help with, as it sounds, the fires in California. And the Caribou won a $6 million grant to work on clearing some of the mass in the forest before it becomes a fire. And they're going to use our gasifier technology, and we're getting a sub-award for $1.3 million to work on the prototype and make sure it's going to fit the specifications they need for California. So,
And if it works, it will sequester 30% of carbon into the product, the byproduct of the.
They create a char.
Char.
So
So that is soaring, to put it mildly.
And if I can just jump in, another piece, I don't know, Bonnie, if you're going to mention the large-scale renewable energy project.
Go ahead.
There is a consortium across SUNY that also includes 3 or 4 private colleges to purchase on a large scale renewable energy, hence the name. It's something that's never been done in SUNY before, or New York State, so there's been a lot of back and forth with the state government, OSC, the Attorney General, to make sure we're doing this properly. But we're about to release, SUNY is about to release an RFP so that we can bid on buying pieces of renewable energy projects, mostly in the Northeast. And then we will lock in a purchase price, and then the energy gets sold at market price and we get the difference. So we either make a little bit of money or maybe it costs us a little money. There's a whole lot of analytics that goes behind this. I've been learning about it for pretty much a year now and it's starting to click. But it's something that can potentially save us money, but it's also bringing renewable energy projects on the grid, so there's a greater good to it as well. And we'll certainly have more for you. The turnaround time once the RFP goes out will be pretty short because these projects move pretty quickly. So hopefully by summer, we'll know for sure what's happening.
And just to be clear, the project won't be local.
Exactly.
It'll be pretty distant because there's not a lot of need locally for more energy, so it needs to be in a different sector of the grid. I'm on the cross-functional energy team as one of my other duties.
So, Bonnie.
Okay, during a 1-year period, ended in December, we reduced energy consumption across every possible measure. We reduced electricity by 3.5%, natural gas by 6.8%, water by 5%, propane by 23%, gasoline by 24%, diesel by 5.8%, and number 2, fuel oil by 18.3%.
Can you send me that, Bonnie?
I will. And this is not, it's not one thing that's creating this. It's a very well planned series of steps. There are some that generate energy. We have put in a few new solar arrays and are going to continue to do that. There'll be 2 more going in, one at Nisker, and that it's going to be one of those parking lot solar arrays that you park underneath, and one at Johnson where UPD is. There's a project that we did that takes the waste heat from the swimming pool and turns it into electricity. So part of it is energy generation, but a much bigger part is the lighting, as Barb mentioned, replacing lighting wherever we can. It's really paying attention to what's going on with the data. So if something seems too high, if something changes, our staff are right in there figuring out why and figuring out how to remedy it. And this has been a steady reduction over the last 4 or 5 years. Perhaps best of all, our energy manager, Don Schaefer, who I mentioned, his salary is paid 75% from the grant, so it just gets better and better. Water is the most startling statistic. We've reduced water consumption by 50% in the last 4 years.
Amazing. And that's on a farm,
Right.
don't forget. So, and speaking of all that, we are in conversations with the faculty and the farm manager in terms of where the herd will be and all of those next steps after that evaluation. So all that is in the mix in terms of still providing students with first-class facilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, what happened?
I think it just cycles.
Yeah.
I think it's trying to get people celebrated.
So now to where we want to spend a little bit more of our attention on where we are with enrollment, because we did change the admissions policy. Yeah.
I just have a question for Bob. Is there a place for advocacy?
Well, certainly in your role as college council members and pillars of your community, there is a place for advocacy. As much as, I think, advocacy in 2 ways. The other thing I didn't mention is that we put a resolution in as a body at Faculty Senate, which is all of the SUNY campuses, to say that SUNY and CUNY are underfunded by state money. It's less than 28% of all of what it costs to run SUNY. It comes from state coffers. So 75% is grants and tuition. So we're state supported, not state run.
Right.
So advocacy for the changes to the TAP gap issue. Right. The Excelsior Scholarship has a similar gap. And then a restoration of some of the funding lines that we have for SUNY would all be good advocacy. I say that as a citizen, I cannot say that as a faculty.
Yeah, let me put a cautionary tale on this, however. We are a state entity, okay? And the advocacy marching orders comes from SUNY. So what Barb is saying is important in terms of what UUP is doing and other arms. But the advocacy of any of us around this table has to go through what SUNY's expecting. You know, the president's actually, in our role, we are really legally the only lobbyist per campus. And we are in close conversations with SUNY Central of what we will say, and we get the list. Right? So when that comes, we will share that with council where we would want to advocate. The other piece to remember that the governor always says, even though we all may be saying state supported or state whatever the word is, the state government pays for the benefits of SUNY employees at 60% of our salaries. If we don't put that in the mix when we're talking, then it doesn't help, because the budget office looks at that. You know, we're sitting there and the budget office is going, but wait a minute, we are paying the benefits of all of your SUNY employees. So we've got to be a united voice with what the chancellor is telling us, and I would imagine what Chairman Tisch will be sharing. So more to come on that, but I have to tell you, the marching orders for us comes from SUNY. And I agree with Barb, it's a tap gap for us. But if you're interested, we'll help you with the language and what we will be signing on to.
It's a delicate dance.
Yeah, it is extremely delicate dance, so.
I mean, as you know, through the hospital, advocacy is a great thing that we do.
Right,
there.
but it's gotta be done in a certain way as a state entity.
Excuse me, just as a PR suggestion, because I hear it some, not an awful lot, but some, about the really bright lights at the end of the playground, if you will, or courts or whatever, down at the end of the fields there. Every night they're on really bright. If you even shut them off, I'm not sure you'd save any money. I mean, that was the way it was at the fair. We could do a lot, save lights, but it still is the same electric bill. But it's just a PR thing.
Agreed, and I've heard that too, and I know we talked to Marie about it, but I see Bonnie is putting that, because I'm wondering about the same thing. Do they have to be on at night? I don't know, because it's a
Particularly this
parking,
time of year.
well, it's a parking lot now,
Yeah.
it's not a court.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there is anything about, anything, okay, anything about whether or not we have to leave it on. So it's in Bonnie's hands and to find out what's going on.
Yeah, we'll see what if we can.
Thank you. Yeah.
Safety issue, isn't it?
That's what I'm wondering, because I think, but Bonnie's group will be tasked with finding that out.
So to your point for advocacy, there is something that SUNY is doing with partnership with the unions and with faculty, staff, and students called Higher Education Action Day. Have you heard about that? So it's February 27th, and we're all like going to be at the Capitol, and we're taking students and student government. And I welcome you all if you want to come. It's from 10 a.m. to 3, and we're advocating. We're basically lobbying, but it is a partnership with SUNY, so they all know. And we are fighting for the issues that Barb and Terenzi spoke about: tap gap, EOP funding, capital infrastructure funding, things of that sort. So that'd be cool.
Now, do you meet with senators, assemblymen?
Yeah,
It's not just a rally outside.
Yep. So actually SUNY SA is creating meetings with our representatives. So I know that we are meeting with some of our students, and they're probably going to be spread about. But right now we only have one staff person going, which is Christina Pratt. So if any of you wanted to join, you can come with us in our van. And
What day of the week is that?
it's a Thursday, which is tough for students. So I know I'm giving a class for it because I think it's a really important issue to advocate on a SUNY level. But a lot of students, don't know that. But we do have a few. So if you did want to advocate in person, be in those meetings with us, we do have some material that we have created too.
How do we sign up and where do we get the material?
So the material, you can tell me to sign up. We're going to sign up as one school, and the material is created by the SUNY SA, and we get a profile of our representatives to know more about them, how many students are in their district, to really hit home. So that would be all handed out probably in a week or so as soon as we register, but I've held it off to try to get more support. But
We
let me
should,
know.
we should also check with Angie Wright. Amy is our government relations liaison for the institution. So the other thing we can find out for that, because that's the student piece too, is what Angie Wright is suggesting as well.
Yeah, so I mean, just email me this weekend. I can put your name on the registration link, but it is a partnership. Like, it's not just Student Assembly, they're just one of the partners and key players.
Yeah.
But I know UUP is in partnership with that, SUNY System, so it's safe. Let's go do it, if you guys want to join.
What's the date?
The 27th of February,
Is it the 25th or the 27th?
27th.
It's Tuesday.
It's usually Tuesdays, that's why we're
Oh,
questioning.
so it's a Thursday this year? I'm not sure the difference, I didn't know that.
That's weird, yeah.
I just want to tell you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Okay.
Pleasant times.
Thank you very
Er-
much.
Back to the, okay, so, the piece that you're gonna see now is, the, report on enrollment with the change of our admissions, requirements. So I've asked the two people who know this better than any of us, Bonnie and Caleb, to walk us through where we are. And the data supported by Tara through the IR office. So the three of them helped put this together. So, you want to start?
Sure.
Let me start, if anybody doesn't know Caleb Grant, usually modestly introduces himself as I work in admissions, but, Caleb is responsible for enrollment and more recently marketing, for the institution. Okay, so, we have talked here a lot about the shifting ground, underneath us in terms of the population changes, in terms of the admissions rule changes, in terms of the economy. So this year we decided to look at a practice that has been going on as long as any of us can remember at the college, which is alt accepts. And how that practice worked is that students would apply for admission and generally be missing a requirement. Often that requirement was chemistry. And
Sure, single me out, Bonnie.
instead of accepting them to the program that they wanted to come here for, we would accept them to a different program, like maybe they wanted fisheries and wildlife, and we accepted them to social science. We felt that we were probably not doing ourselves or these students a great service with this practice, and started to think about, could we change it? If a student was missing a requirement, could we provide that course to the student when they got here, accept them to the major that they were truly interested in, and perhaps increase our yield rate of students that apply. So Tara has done some great research with clearinghouse data, and these are the students who applied to come in the fall of 2019 and were accepted to something other than the program that they wanted to come to.
Bonnie, would you tell them the number? It's not just, how many were alt accepted last year?
927, I believe.
I think it was actually, I think it was more like 819, and of those 600 went elsewhere.
So let me explain,
Between 800,
right.
Yeah.
So let's say 850.
Yeah.
22% of the 850 alt accepted came.
Right.
The rest of the 80 some odd, that's what you see up there, who went to a 4-year or 2-year or didn't enroll anywhere.
Correct.
That number, you have to understand, that's a big number.
Right, so in doing this, we're hoping to expand access to students and hoping that the number who will actually enroll at Cobleskill, because we've now given them access to the program that they wanted, will increase. Whoops, right on. Okay, so with Tara's help, we also looked at how successful are the students that have been alt accepted in the past. And what we found based on the 2018 cohort is that they were as successful, maybe even slightly more successful than the students who were regular admits, and that they had a very similar academic profile to the students who were regularly accepted. Tara's research also uncovered where these students went to school, where they were accepted, presumably into the program that they want. And certainly there are some impressive institutions there.
Let me explain. Regular admit as 4-year students, and this is only a quarter of the list. We didn't get all the colleges up there. Yeah, you sent me the link. So this only represents a quarter of the list, and it's, as Bonnie said, impressive. All right, so how many, 49% of our alternate students went to colleges like this, including Penn State.
Part of our analysis was also looking at the other colleges of technology and what their admission standards were. And as you can see from the chart, we were pretty much outliers in terms of the GPA that we expected for bachelor students, and associate degree students, and the GPA that we expected for transfers. But when we looked, we saw that our graduation rate was not necessarily higher than our peers who were taking students with less, with lower GPAs and lower achievement in high school or in college. So this factored into our thinking as well. I'm gonna let you take this from here, Caleb.
So this is our enrollment for spring 2020 as of 2/7/20. So as the census goes through and we figure out who's actually here, who's not, we have obviously the full-time number. Those are students enrolled. Part-time, this is both degree seeking as well as non-degree seeking. Our associates population and then bachelors. You'll see that as a theme as we go through our application numbers for this year as well is you'll see across the nation associates enrollments go in an inverse to unemployment rates. So community colleges, our associate arm of SUNY Cobleskill, can really see a large decline in population, but you're also seeing some of our bachelor's programs gaining a great deal of momentum and students transferring within there. So that doesn't necessarily mean that these students started in an associate's, but that's what they're currently enrolled in going into the spring semester. And then our total head count of both degree seeking as well as non-degree seeking at 1961.
Let me add the good news, and I'm going to let Wendy tell you the good news.
Our budget, well, I think you all know our enrollment was down in the fall, and we did have a revenue shortfall. So based on the fall enrollment, we had budgeted or rebudgeted 1875 head count for the spring. So we're about 85 above what we budgeted. We haven't gotten through the revenue analysis yet because we've just gotten the data, so we have to go and plug everybody into the right categories. But we'll certainly be up in revenue above what we had thought we'd be able to.
That's very good news. But we're still in the structural deficit, so I just want to say that.
So this brings us to where we stand with fall 2020. And these are all applications that come through as well as readmits. And so what you're seeing here is an analysis over the past 3 years, date to date for last Friday. You'll see that total applications continue to decline. When you go into the next slide, you'll see that the majority of the decline is in the associates, again, a national trend. Our accepted rate is significantly up. That is both in a change of policy reflection, but also some investment the institution made in application review and making sure we are competitive in getting students their decisions as quickly as possible. Paid is the number of deposits we have at this point. You'll see we're up about 20%. A big credit to that is within our K-9 program, which is double any other program in the entire college for deposits currently. And then out of state is something that's both significant from a budgetary standpoint, but also a demographic necessity. You'll see that New York, and especially upstate New York, are on the edge of a cliff as far as the number of high school graduates we have coming up. So if we maintain market share over the next 10 years, or even slightly increase market share within New York, we would still see declining enrollment of first-time, full-time traditional students. So going to population growth areas like Texas, California, Colorado are all a necessity to ensure that we are both sustaining our market shares within New York and growing those, but also increasing our footprint throughout the United States. And again, K-9 full credit to really expanding those unique programs that are truly the only in the nation, can draw people from all over the nation and from what we've seen the world. So you'll see within the out-of-state populations, we continue to be stable as far as applications and accepted, but a much higher and a significant increase in the deposits, which is that accept us yield ratio is a direct correlation to some of our recruitment efforts. That's the kind of infinity factor of how much students are choosing us as a first choice.
Let me add that, remember, the out-of-state is higher tuition. Yeah, so, it's what, how many, 10,000?
10,000.
10,000 more. And the other piece is that, Ag-Eng, by the way, I would love to announce, by the way, that they just received a full 5-year reaccreditation status, and I've never seen a reaccreditation report that was so stellar, right, Sue? But I'm only mentioning that too is because I know the John Deere program has scholarships behind that. But the John Deere program is at 30 students, where before we did our robust financial aid model, which we're finding is critical, that now is up. And I asked how many out-of-state students are in the John Deere program, and it's at least 60%. So that adds a little bit to that. And also to say, what this reflects is the financial aid matrix that I think is one of the most robust I've seen, because of the financial factor with students is huge. So there's a lot of pieces that go into this that Caleb was referring. It's not just one thing. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you.
The
next statistics I wanted to share with you is what that application looks like. Those totals look like when broken down by associate degree as well as bachelor degree. And you'll see that as a bachelor institution, we are, I would dare to say, thriving, as you see with the application accepted, as well as paid. The associate degree especially in the diesel technology programs, paramedic, histotechnology, these really are robust associate degree programs. So we still remain very relevant within those fields, just to mention a few. But as a nation, we do see a significant decrease in associate degrees. Another element within these statistics is also with the new admissions policies, again, ensuring that students are accepted into the programs that they originally applied for. So these students were still being accepted into the program, but recategorized to a major that was not necessarily their intended major. So I want to give an opportunity to help digest any of these numbers, or give any context that you would find helpful.
The associate's degree, according to Caleb, right, they were down, applications last year were down 12%. They're down another 12% this year at the community colleges.
Can I also make one comment from my area of expertise?
Please do.
I work a lot with students in our biotechnology major. There is a major employer in Rensselaer, it's Regeneron. They're hiring 2,000 biotechnologists in the next 2 years. They're in charge of, by the way, making the Wuhan vaccine. They're going to be very, so they've got a lot of job offerings. One that normally they've been looking for biotechnologists with a bachelor's degree with experience because of the demand. Now they're going for biotechnology people with limited experience, and the ad I got yesterday was associates or bachelor's degree students with no experience.
Wow.
So the marketplace is so dry that they're starting to poach bachelor's students and at that associate's level. So that is a driver, even for the associate's program. You could save 2 years of college expense and then end up where you want to be anyway. And then they have a college reimbursement program once you work there. So you work towards the second 2 years of your degree. So that just kind of tells you more about how the marketplace really is looking for bodies.
And the upside downside was under 3% unemployment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think to Barb's point, that's an important thing to keep in mind as we maintain the truly unique Cobleskill model, is that these associate programs, when the market is in great need of employees, whether it be diesel technology, whether it be biotechnology, look to institutions with associates, and typically that bump, that growth can only be seen by community colleges. But we are subjected to both the waxes and the wanes of the markets for associates as well as bachelors. So, if and when a recession does come, I think having the associates on the books will greatly benefit from that. But certainly at this point, we're seeing a little bit of the impacts of that low unemployment rate.
My apologies all.
Need to go teach some biology.
How are we meeting the demands of like trade school curriculums? Just a tremendous outpouring for needs of trade issues. I mean, you know, which one of us can change the oil in our car anymore, you know? They don't even know how to open the hood anymore.
Right.
So one of the groups we're working really closely with is BOCES, and, you know, I think that makes a lot of sense. We have articulation agreements, but we're actually, you know, working with them on a larger scale. And I think the work that Ag Engineering will take as an example again, that they're doing to do, with a mobile outreach, you know, that they received the grant to have a mobile training unit, is pretty unique, and, you know, it takes, you know, the tools and the training to people. So whether it's people coming out of BOCES or maybe people who want to upscale or reskill in some way, I think we'll be there for that, which is great.
Tremendous need.
Yeah,
We got a $1.6 million grant for that, and
1.9.
1.9,
Details.
300,000, 600,000, come on now. What's a couple $100,000? And we have another part of that grant into the state for that. I remember the governor had a $175 million workforce pot of money for the state to tap into entities. Our proposal had to go through SUNY, and now it's to the state, and we were pushed up for that. So we may be getting another that's the 1.6, I think, that we asked for. So that Ag Eng will have a $3 million pool of money to bring, to your point, their work to students via mobile units, so that students don't have to come here.
And I want to say that, you know, Tim Moore right now is meeting with a representative from Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, so that we can continue that work with Ag Engineering, and out-of-state students as well, and out-of-state training.
My other question is, how about military people that are retired
Right.
or have
Yes.
left the military?
Yeah.
The veterans, we
Yeah.
have a very robust veteran program, and actually looking to do more with them, but if you're gonna go there, you gotta make sure you have the structures in place to do so. But we're thinking more on the micro-credential ideas and perhaps online or other pieces, because we have a very strong, robust
In
veterans
New England, there
program.
are just so many articles that are always written about veterans starting
Yes.
niche farming.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep,
Whatever it may be.
yep. Thanks.
Very, very big field.
Yep. But to Sue's point, the other piece to add as you're hearing, so we're going into, when you look at what we've built here over the last 4.5 years, it's everything you would expect a contemporary college to do. As you're seeing now, the enrollments, which we've been projecting for a while, are going the way, unfortunately, the scanning of the environment is telling us. We've built other infrastructures to make sure that we still be a contemporary college and do what we did 100 years ago in terms of who we admit. So the partnerships are critical. You just heard Pennsylvania is here for a second visit. He is from the Office of Workforce Development, right?
In the Department of Agriculture.
In the Department of Agriculture. And he is telling us, because I was teasing with him, and Sue and I and Tim met him at a conference in Cornell, and they loved the report we gave of the work we're doing. He said to us, well, you know, you're way ahead of Penn State. And I started laughing. I said, you're kidding. He said, I have a list of what I learned here at SUNY Cobleskill that Penn State doesn't do at all. So we are very interested in what's happening here, that you help us with Pennsylvania. We have that happening. We have the Department of Labor coming in March.
Yep.
After hearing all the good work we're doing. So this is Commissioner Reardon, but with Commissioner Ball. But their labor department is coming here to find out what else we're doing and how to partner. We also had the USDA here last week, talking to us and saying, here are all the pots of money that you can apply for. So Tara is doing the overall shell for us, and where is our wish list, and connecting all these pieces. We can go on, and these are other partners that I haven't even put on our list. Partnership is critical, and we have the product, if you will, and the process to capitalize on that, and how John's area with Beth and now Lynn Berger are going more into the corporate world and are saying to the corporate world, this is what's going on here. You don't ask the corporate world anymore for money. You're saying, here are partnership potentials, because the corporate world doesn't just shell that money out. So again, I know this is a huge report, and I haven't even finished what's on here, but rest assured, we're doing all those pieces, and it does not look like a traditional college. And I would be proud to say we're not a traditional college. So the only other piece I have to talk about today, if you would bear with me, is what we're calling the administrative conference, and that's going to be asking the council to help us. As we're moving forward, one thing you realize, the complexity of the college, right? And you're kind of hearing that today. Faculty governance is doing its good work, and it used to be a college only based on faculty governance and administration. That doesn't work for us. There's more to the college than having the faculty's point of view. It's a complex unit that everybody's point of view matters. So as faculty governance is moving forward, and you heard Barb say, particularly for a DEI, that's a campus initiative. That has to be more than faculty. We have started what we call campus governance. So we have faculty governance, campus governance, and the process is called shared governance. We believe in shared governance. So to help us get to that next level, we are reconstituting the administrative conference, which is in the handbook. I don't like to build structures if I don't have to outside of what exists. It's also in the Board of Trustees bylaws that really what it is, it's the chancellor designated through me, because he or she, in this case, she could come and run the conference if she wants per campus. It's called the locus, the local control of the institution. And as Scott explains it, it's kind of what the cabinet is, but I have the authority to expand it. So I'm taking the administrative conference model, and Eric and I have talked that we'd like a council member on it to look at all of the policies and practices that run the infrastructure of the college, and to give me advice of what has to change and where are the barriers to go into the blue ocean. Whether it's what's happening with the farm and keeping it robust. What are the policies that allow students in? So the administration changed the admissions policies. We did that. How is that following through, and what other policies and practices may slow that down? You're hearing the students in terms of faculty evaluation. That's a policy. So you're hearing what we can do about that. So we think it's time for an entity to help me move this institution forward. So more to come on that, and Eric and I have been talking who would best serve in that capacity, and I appreciate all of you in the work you're already doing with us. This is yet another step to say, how contemporary are we? How effective are we? And where do we need to tweak and change? So that's what that means where it says administrative conference. Just to let you know, there are 8 pages behind this chart of the cabinet's responsibility for everything on this chart. So there is a, what I want to call, what do we call it? I guess a, what do we want to call it? These are tasks, right? And we're checking off, and the cabinet's being evaluated on this. And I'm proud to say everything you see on this is moving. So, again, I know it was a long report, but I think it was critical for the council to hear all of this. So.
Good luck with the minutes.
And I have to say, the faculty, thanks to Sue's leadership with the deans, the new admissions policy, we were worried, and we stayed the course. and when faculty are pushing back, we're saying, what do you need to do this? It's happening. What kinds of supports do you need? And we're gonna be asking on Thursday, what are the supports the students need that we're missing? So thank you, Sue. The leadership she has expressed and shown is stellar and more important than my leadership at this time. So a major kudos to our provost, who with her deans are really moving this entire agenda forward. So I appreciate that, Sue, and you deserve actually a round of applause. And I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I
to
don't.
that.
I just wanna move on.
That's Sue,
Thank you.
that's our provost, right? So thank you.
All right, moving on.
Moving
Beth, would you give us both foundation and alumni?
Yeah, and I'm here because John is in Mexico.
Raising money.
Yeah, and it's my pleasure to be here. Advancement is, we're making big strides. We had a $2 million fiscal year goal for 2020, and we're at 1.45 million. So we're moving the dial. and it's
That's the
very
first
exciting.
time in years, people, in years, that goal.
And February.
And it's February.
And just a side note, now that we have sort of wrangled all our data and we're implementing a new database, John and I literally could eat lunch with a new donor every day of the week. We have so much potential and so much room to grow. It's really exciting. And as we go out and talk to people, the enthusiasm and the love for the college is there. So it's really exciting for us. We have a lot of incoming gift indications. When someone indicates they're going to give a gift, they generally give the gift. It's a lot of people don't just write a check. It's shifting money around, and we look to help people do a lot of planned giving initiatives so that there's a lot of tax benefits in donating to the college. The annual fund is moving forward a little behind schedule, but no one's fault. It's just weather, sickness, just trying to get everything. We're trying to make a annual fund schedule that is set in stone, so it becomes easier and easier each year to implement it. So that's what we're doing now. Communications and marketing is lovely to work with. We meet with them regularly, so we will be implementing a general appeal that goes out to pretty much everyone in April, so stay posted for that. But in the meantime, we have instituted our first ever day of giving, which is February 14th. What that means is we're going to open it up to just pushing the word out on Valentine's Day. We've started it on campus. We've begun it on social media. If you look here, I am not a graphic designer, so I apologize. I did some screen captures from our Facebook page because we're promoting this day of giving through saying, tell us about how you met your significant other on Covey's campus. And it was within minutes of posting. We had like 100 posts. It's crazy.
Oh my God.
So I just copied and pasted a few of them here. It's a nice way to sort of end the meeting with really sweet stuff. A lot of people met. Someone here said, we met in a dorm and we're 28 years later and 2 daughters later, we're still happily. So it's just lovely. So be on the lookout. Because we've never done a day of giving before, we are not setting the bench very, very high. What we're saying is we're trying to get 104 people to donate because we're 104 years old. And we have an anonymous community member who is going to match whatever we raise on that day.
Really?
So it'll be fun, it'll be exciting, and I'll keep you posted on what we actually raise. So we'll see. I brought this real quick. This is just another really fun note. Does anyone own this calendar locally? It's a local man named Bill Combs. I think he's in charge of facilities at the fairground. He's a photographer, and he's done these eagles of Schoharie County. So he sold this calendar, and 50% of the profits are now going to be a scholarship for Cobleskill wildlife students. Yeah, $1,000.
That's what's
which is
happening.
a lot. And he is going to continue to do this every year for us. This, by the way, if you see Tim Purcell, I think this was Tim's brainchild, and he pushed it and he sold it at Grapevine Farms. He told Bill to raise his price, and he did. And so Bill, the photographer, has designed it so each of these photographs, once the month's over, you can cut it out and frame it. And just a funny side note, he said that one of these photographs, it has the American flag in the background. I'll open it, but it's kind of like this. It's like this, take that North Korea American eagle type thing. But he said that the Albany News Channel, and I don't know what TV channel it was, they were posting a news segment on how to recognize fake news, and they pulled up his picture of his eagle with the flag behind it and said, that's fake.
What?
Yeah, that's how beautiful it is. And so he had to call him and say, it is indeed not fake. I can't
Wow.
wait for 8 hours to take this. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know, if you see Bill Combs in the neighborhood, tell him thank you, and we love being part of this.
The amazing thing is these eagles live next to Walmart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you
You
talk
can
to
see
him,
them as you.
when you
visit
talk to
them.
him, it's like he's part of their family. He knows their migratory patterns and yeah, he knows everything. He said they squabble in the nest like husband and wife. It was great. It's great.
That was Sterling's flag in the back.
Yes,
Big
right,
flag.
right. Real quickly, we have some foundation meetings coming up in February. Full foundation board meeting in March. The Alumni Association will be meeting on February 17th, and they're going to follow it up with one of our catered dinners. There's new leadership in the Alumni Association. It's pretty exciting. There seems to be a real energy there. John is bringing in a consultant from Binghamton's Alumni Association to talk to our alumni board about ways to invigorate their efforts and to just do better, bigger things. So look for that down the road. I think Pierce Randall, who's president of it now, will be doing some cool stuff. Any questions? It's all good.
Thank you. Middle space, anything more than that?
Anything else, Sue?
I don't think so. I think just that we're moving forward, and I think that's great. And it's great to have council members on two really important standards. One is the mission, and one is governance. So I think that's really important.
It's, I was very impressed with the strategic planning process. It was very organized, it was highly structured, we kept on our toes, and I see this process going on the same way. And for something as enormous and as broad as this, we really need that discipline.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I do want to say is that in the process of gathering evidence to demonstrate that we are meeting the middle state standards, each standard group has been asked to identify any gaps, or to do a gap analysis, and if there are any things that are missing, or we feel like we need some more support for, to identify those and share that with the group. And I can say that already, and we're keeping a running log of this, but already a number of things have been identified and corrected and updated or improved while the process is going on, and I think that's really important. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a continuous improvement process, which has been great.
Very good. Thanks. Questions? Okay, council reports. I was intending to attend the Chancellor's State of the Union, State of the University, but a possible board meeting got in the way. Tracy had listened to it, and I'd asked her to put some notes together, but she's out of town. You were there, were you? Did you report?
Well,
Some good stuff.
the day before I saw the chancellor, because what had happened, what she's doing, and it's really impressive. She's asked each sector to send stuff in to brag about. So, the tech sector has 7 schools. We put in 5 things, and the comprehensive sector did the same thing. So I would assume that perhaps she might have mentioned one of ours, because you got to spread the wealth. And those of us who were there, right? Well, she mentioned 3. Mm-hmm. So the night before, she said to me, and I had no idea what she was going to do, she teased me and she said, I have 3 for you. Which one should I cut out? And I looked at her, I said, I think you should say all 3. So she did. And the first one was my head was down and she was saying SUNY Cobleskill, and of course I looked up and there was a picture of me talking about being stewards of place. So she picked on that, which was exciting. The Institute, and I'll tell you what happened with that afterwards. The food, and Fuji was there. The horse was there. Thank you. Thank you. So SUNY Cobleskill in the entire address was mentioned three times, and I have to tell you that was completely unusual. Her agenda is exactly, I think, who we are in terms of energy and next steps with philanthropy. And she announced that she's giving $1 million, which I'm surprised was not picked up by the press.
Yeah.
She and her wife Veronica have donated $1 million for scholarships for students, which I think tells you, where she's coming from. So philanthropy is big. Energy is big, partnerships are big, and the applied learning online are big. So after that event, Senator May's chief of staff was in the audience and came looking for us to say, that Institute for Rural Vitality, we need to know more because Senator May now is in charge of rural initiatives and no one's helping her. And Amy has followed up with them. They want us to be a partner. We don't know how, but the exposure we can get from Senator May's office is big. And then the chief of staff looked at me, and Gus and Karina were there to be my witnesses, and said, it's budget time, what do you need? So we're like, oh. So I thought it was a home run. I never had seen such, and I know that those of you who were there, what would you say?
Yeah, it was just woven throughout it, like it was all of her main initiative. It was like, that's SUNY Cobleskill. It started out with Mary.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did.
It was pretty funny.
And
So
your tires weren't slashed either.
we are fitting, and then that day, they have hired a firm out of Maryland to do their marketing. And the chancellor's wife, Veronica, is an amazing woman, and said, Marion, come here. Because my job is to get to know everybody in SUNY, and for SUNY to know what's happening at Cobleskill. That's my job. She knew enough, and she introduced me to these gentlemen, and they are taking the brand for SUNY. And she wanted me to talk to them. So I did, and I teased, and I said, by the way, I keep telling the chancellor that Cobleskill enhances the SUNY brand. And, you plant these seeds, and I love all these farming metaphors. And it gets us to that next level. But I can advocate for it because it's true. It's truth in advertising, and I never feel like a fraud when I talk about this place. Yeah. I'm sorry you all missed it. I had no idea.
Even when we're not mentioned, it's a really interesting talk to go to, and the opportunity to mingle with people from the other colleges. I'll put a plug in. The ACT conference is just as good in terms of really getting out there and comparing, and we do very well. Susan, anything to add to the?
I went through Beth's report and she hit everything, so it was wonderful. I do have to scoot, but I wanted to mention something. We were talking about, advocacy, and some of it's being done quite by accident out in the public. I went to a program last night at the high school. They recognized the senior athletes, and they list where they're going to be going to college and what their majors are going to be. And I was surprised the number that will be coming here. The K-9 program, business, and I started to sit up a little taller. It was very nice, and I dare say it might not have been noted like that five or more years ago. So I was pleased.
So Susan and I and Beth and John talk about this to develop the report, and I always learn something from John.
I know.
And my lesson learned is all these scholarships we're getting, tuition programs, we don't want to pay these out as tuition offsets for students with Excelsior and some of the other grants, because these grants are last dollar, so they count everything the student's getting from other first. So, John said, we do housing or books or student life or whatever, but not apply. It was very interesting.
May I ask, I know we're gonna close down, if those of you who can stay, it's not an executive session, but I need to share some pieces of information with the council that I don't, it's personnel matter, if we may for about 5 minutes. I know some of you have to go, but I'd like to request that.
Okay. Any new business? Any other business? Motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Oh, wait, who said that?
She seconded.
I'll second.
All right, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.